Welcome to Dusk Talk.
A pair of besties who bonded over trauma.
I'm Dr. Bear.
And I'm Dr. Bunny. And today we're going to be
Well,
talking about the different types of culture shocks that we faced in medical school and on a new island.
oh yes, I feel like going from Canada to an island was something that not a lot of people talk about. It's very different from when people take like a 1 or 2 week vacation, like in an exclusive island sort of thing. It's definitely not like that at all.
I agree. I've traveled to many islands in the Caribbean before, and I thought, I've actually spent um, like a month in a Caribbean island before, where I've lived not just on resorts or anything, kind of like on a timeshare, and a little bit kind of like I would a student. But I thought I was ready for this. I wasn't ready at all.
The most I ever can give you is 7 days in Cancun and all inclusive resort. So I that was just not it for me. But you lived for 1 month? Was that like a
Yeah,
vacation? Oh wow.
it was basically a vacation. Um, but it was unplanned and it was really fun though. It was really fun. I love that island that I went to vacation on. Um, I obviously don't want to say which one because then that's gonna eliminate one of the islands as a contender where we're
Oh
from. But it
yes.
was really fun. I enjoyed it. I liked that island so much. So because of that, I thought that okay, you know what? Like being on the island isn't gonna be that bad. I've already done it. I've lived like before where I've gone grocery shopping's on. I like I know what it's like to live in the community of an island, not on the resort. So I was like, oh, I could do this. And then I had a rude awakening. We went downtown. Do you remember that day?
Yes. I just that day I feel like two different people had more fun than we were, and I don't think they understood our panic or just that
Trauma.
nothing was exciting throughout the whole day.
That was the first time we bonded over trauma.
Yes. I think when I first landed on this island, just the weather itself, I was sweating in line as we were going through immigration. And I was just like, I can't do this. It was filled with students, and I was just like, I can't do this. It was so hot. I didn't know anyone, and I was like, and just from how slow the line was moving, I was just like, what is happening? I don't know. I don't. Maybe it was different for you because you were used to it, but I Cancun was definitely not like that.
Well, I mean, I anticipated the weather and all of that type of stuff. So it wasn't particularly that I was used to it. I mean, we're Canadians, we're not really used to extreme heat. We're in, but I would say though, like I I didn't anticipate like slow everything was. It was one thing about the island. A lot of people refer to as island time. Not a fan of it at all.
Yes. Like the whole process, even after I got checked in, got my visa stamped, and then we were just waiting in line, got my luggage, and you know how there was people there to take us to our housing. And
Yes.
kid you not, that entire process took almost 3 hours. Like I was exhausted. I was just standing there for the longest time. Like it was just running and I felt like it was in slow motion. Maybe not 3 hours, I'm over exaggerating, but definitely two.
I actually don't remember how long it took us.
Did you black out?
So I was just like, I remember panicking about why my suitcases aren't coming faster. But my dad was kind of like,
Oh,
hey, well, they're not gonna go anywhere. They were on the plane. You know that they're gonna come. So just stick around. They'll be there eventually. Then we did get our
that was my biggest
suitcases.
fear. That was my
Yes.
biggest fear because you hear stories how like you lose your luggage and I was like if I have to spend the first night without the things that brought me comfort that I brought with me, I will turn around and go home. I would not be able to handle it.
I agree. I mean, my number one comforter was my teddy bear, and I held him with me throughout all the flights. I was like a grown woman walking around an airport with a stuffed animal.
I did not bring my stuffed animal to the island. I don't know why. I was just like, I was afraid it would get stolen. Like, I don't know. Like, I
I
was,
brought I brought two, but one of them wouldn't fit in my backpack or in any of my luggage, so I carried him loud and proud through the airport and everywhere. Um, but yeah, it took a long time to actually like for the luggage to come out on the carousel. And then when we got our luggage, you're right, there was for some reason their immigration is only like what was it like two booths?
yes. And it took so long just to be processed. I was just like, here's all the paperwork. Why is this taking longer than it needs to? Like, I just wanted to get home at this point. I
Oh,
can't
there
even
were
call it home,
more
wherever they were bringing us.
there were more booths, but yeah, the line was huge. It was huge. And then when we finally made it through and you pick up your luggage, there's a second immigration thing you have to clear before you actually can leave the airport with your
Yes, your
baggage.
luggage. They check your
Yes,
luggage.
yes,
Yes.
yes, yes, that.
Like,
Uh,
all our things were exposed.
I didn't have them actually open my luggage like that, but they did let me through. And then, like you said, we made it out to that waiting area of the airport where they had people holding signs saying, like, you know, if you're in this housing, come over here. We're gonna drive you through. They'd fill up the van and they'd take us. And yeah, that was my first experience with island time where things are really slow. But island
Yes.
time, basically what that is anything on that island took hours, whether it was grocery shopping, not because you're slow, but because people have no rush in their life there.
Oh,
It
every
sounds
time
amazing, but it's not.
no, every time we went to the grocery store, I was there for at least 2.5 hours. It just shouldn't be taking this long. Because
I am a
because we had to take cabs. So like just even waiting for the cab to go back to your place, you were waiting for at least 20-25 minutes after shopping for hours.
yes, because in
Like,
the first semester we didn't have cars because they told us that we'd have bus services, which they did. But like we mentioned in the previous episode, the buses were full. They were overbooking the amount of people there were, and the bus timings were too spread apart, and so it was really hard to get anything done waiting for a bus. So it was easier to
well,
just cab.
there was that one student that you were friends with who like gave rides to at least 5 or 6 lucky people that day. Because they were like the first people to get a car on that island, and then like whoever popped into that car, like, let's go.
Is it the lived in my building?
Yes.
Or did
No.
he? No, he
No.
didn't live in my building. He lived in a separate building, but he was friends with the guy that lived underneath my apartment.
I was gonna say she.
Gee.
Yeah.
No,
Got
you're
a car.
friends with your friends. sh- Oh,
Absolutely
she.
not. No, she,
Oh,
yeah.
oh, okay. Oh,
We.
I totally. So random story, but my dad made friends with the guy that used to live below me. Not so there was his friend who used to come visit the
Your
guy that
dad
lived below
become
me.
friends with the entire building?
My dad was friends with majority of the building. And so my dad had arranged his ride back to the airport while I was in class. So, well, I don't know why
Oh,
our class, because I was
was he
waiting for the
looking
bus to
over
come
him?
home. And so he literally just decided to like go downstairs, talk to these guys, and we're like, "Hey, you have a car?" And he's like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Okay, well, I don't know where my daughter is right now. She's still like coming home from class or whatever. So if she doesn't make it in time or whatever, can you drop me off at the airport?" And then
Oh, yes. He goes into the airport. I remember you.
I came home and I'm like, oh, the cab driver's not answering my phone. See, that's another problem. The cab drivers were like, they showed up if they wanted to, and if they didn't come.
You
They'd,
didn't get to say goodbye to your dad, did you?
I did. I did.
Oh,
I did.
okay.
I
Like
did
you
have
went
my
to the
time.
airport?
Yeah, I went to the airport with him. Yeah.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah.
With a cab or
Um,
the guy drove you
no,
guys?
the cab never showed up. The guy said I'll come, and then he never showed up, and my dad would have been late for his flight. So the
That wouldn't have been the worst
classmate
thing
of
for you.
ours, I know, but you know how expensive it is to fly out. So I was like, he was
Yes.
stressed too. He's like, if I miss this flight, like, how am I supposed to rebook? Like, you know, and the flights
True.
out of that island aren't very accommodating for my part of Canada.
No, they're not. I felt really bad for
So,
you. You had the hardest times. Every time you would tell me like my entire flight day or trip is like 20 something hours, I was like, what now? I couldn't even handle like 9 8 9 hours for total day.
yeah. Well, I think let's rein it back in. Um, so first culture shock that we experienced together that we bonded over outside of
Was when you're
island time was when we went downtown.
yeah, how does
So,
that how did we even get invited? I was only you and
so,
your dad that were gonna go and
so how you got invited was me and my dad were leaving the apartment, and you and your roommate were coming back from wherever you guys were. Where did you guys go?
probably the grocery store. He went like every day the first week we were there. I didn't know why.
Oh, I think you're right. I think it was a grocery store.
Mhm.
So we saw you guys get dropped off by the taxi, and so my dad was like, Let's go see what they're doing." And I was like, "Okay." So we walked up to you guys on the other side of the complex, and talked to you guys while you're taking your groceries in. And my dad was like, "We're going downtown. Come with us. Let's go explore this. Have you guys been?" And you guys are like, "No." And he's like, "Well,
I'm like, no.
why are you sitting around?" And he's like, "Let's go." And so your roommate was like, "Yeah, let's go." And then you were kind of like, "Whoa, what the hell just
I
happened?"
didn't want to come. I did not want to come. I just wanted to be home and I just wanted to be in my bed, just calling home. And then I got dragged into it because like my roommate was like, "No, no, we need to go. It'll be fun." And I was like, "I, you didn't even want to go either. I feel like we should have just let your dad go with my roommate, and that's it."
I didn't want to go either, but I felt bad keeping the man cooped up in the apartment all the time. So, so we went.
That is true.
We ended up
Yes.
getting back into the same taxi, I believe. And
Yes, and when he dropped us off, I remember like this is not it. I'm not used to it. There was like it don't get me wrong, it seemed like a lot of fun. I just if I was there on vacation, it would have been different. Like they had all of these random little shops on the streets. Like it was really fun and like you don't know what you were getting like in that sense, but I feel like just associating with like I'm going to be actually living here for the next few months, I just couldn't I was just like where am I? And plus it smelled really bad.
it did. It really did. So I think the first culture shock was okay, so, the van, that's the taxi, drops us off. So we all kind of like get out of the van. And my dad goes to me, he's like, "I thought we were going downtown. What is this? Where are we?" And so we turn to the taxi guy before he drives off, and we're like, "Hey, we want to go downtown." He goes, "This is downtown. Just walk down that way, and that'll be where like the cruise ships come and like the pier and whatnot." And we're like, "Oh, okay." Uh, yeah, like Dr. Bear described, like it was just like outside street vendors with like fruits and stuff. Excuse me. Oh, sorry. That was
You know, it's all good. Don't get me wrong though, like the food there for the most part did not disappoint.
Yeah, the food was good. Some of the food was
And
good.
I went out a lot, like way more than you. I think most of the times I went out, you were most of the time with me. And then I feel like we would go out to eat a lot. I felt like that was my way of just I don't know what to call it. Like I just needed to buy food outside. Like I was so bad at cooking at home.
So I did buy food outside because, like we mentioned, island time, I didn't like eating out. If we went to a restaurant, we were not getting our food for an hour after we ordered, maybe sometimes even two. And then when you get your food, you weren't getting your bill for an hour after that. God knows why it takes them 3 hours to let you eat 5 minutes worth of a meal, but
Not even
it did.
that. So they get easily confused. Like obviously not speaking for everyone, but like just so every time we would ask to split a bill, I felt like I was giving them some kind of problematic math equation to solve. Like one time, even if it was me and one other person, and we'd be like, "Can you just split the bill in half?" It would take at least 15 to 20 minutes to sort out. They were just so confused to how to like I didn't understand. Like, was I being complicated?
I mean, they have a popular belief that, like us being stateside, we rush everything. We're always go, 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 which I understand. There comes a point in your life where you shouldn't be like, like we should take it easy. We should relax. We shouldn't run around and always be like from point A to B to like C, like let's take a moment to enjoy our life. I totally agree. I understand that. It would probably help my anxiety to like chill out a bit. But it made my anxiety worse when you're just only chill because you can't get anything done. It's just not efficient anymore.
Mm,
It's too
mm.
chill. It's too relaxed. Um,
No, absolutely. And then it's so funny because every time you went out to eat, like here, it would like maximum you would be there for 40, 50 minutes. But over there, if we went at 6, we would somehow be leaving at like 9:30, 10. And no, we didn't stay to like that's how long sometimes it took, like maybe over an hour to get your food.
yeah, I never used to eat, I'm gonna be honest, I used to eat out, but only my version of eating out like up in 10, 15 minutes, which was like, food that was already cooked and needed. For them to deliver food even, it used to take hours. So if I wanted dinner at 6, I had to order food at like 3:30.
I know. I don't know if that's something that's in every island that you see, but just like you said, like island time, island how things work, but like maybe or is it like was it just our specific island?
I don't know, that was a first for me. If there's anybody else who's a Caribbean school student or whatever, please let me know. Like, is this normal on all islands? Is this
No,
like,
I have
you
the
know,
funniest story just relating to this. So I don't like onions in my food. I just don't. And then I was like, they got offended whenever I said I don't want onions. So one time, I'm not even joking, I told the lady, like, please, like, I want this, but no onions at all. And she looked at me, she's like, but it like needs onions. I'm like, no, no, I'm sorry. Like, I really, and when I got my sandwich, it was more onions than usual. And I think she did it on purpose.
she really was like, boy, I'ma change your taste.
What if I was allergic? Like, I don't know. Like, what if I couldn't, like, what if something happened? I don't know. You should
You're
take
in
that
med school.
seriously.
You you could treat yourself.
But no, I felt like after that day when we just like your dad tried so hard to make it seem like we were gonna be okay, and my roommate loved it as well, but I was just like, I feel sick to my stomach. Like I just
These
was so
guys,
queasy the whole day.
yeah, so these guys, my dad and your roommate, they're walking together in front of us, walking down the streets, just looking at the stores. They're having a
And just
field
like
day. They're having a
look,
field day.
they're
They're
so happy.
laughing.
They're like enjoy. What was there to laugh about? I was trying to hold back tears, and I think you cried a little bit, or you tried to hold it back, like or teared up.
I yeah, I did cry. It was so we're walking and this is the first time in my life I've seen open gutter sewers, like open sewage. I've never
Oh
seen open
yeah,
sewage in my life before. Like besides on
yes,
TV of like I'm sorry to say, but third world countries. So
yeah.
I'm like, what the hell? This is your downtown? Like cannot be it. Like yeah, you have cute quaint shops, like they do when you go to cruise port ship port terminal or whatever. They have those cute shops that sell things like jewelry stores, little clothing stores, where you can buy
Hmm.
like island t-shirts or whatever, like that you visited and whatnot. And they had food places, of course. But as we were walking, like more closer to the port, it started to smell a lot because there was actually sewage going through the open sewers. So it was like the road, and then there was like deep craters on both sides of the road that you had to have like a little pathway to get to the sidewalk. Like between the sidewalk and the road, there were open sewage, and there was like muddy. It wasn't muddy. It was pool water. Um, and like
The smell
just
was really bad, like really,
well,
really like there was
it's our waste. It is human feces, and it, like I
that,
don't
but
know.
like there was restaurants on where it was.
Yeah, and so it was going through the sewage to the water. And so when we got to the part where the cruise port actually like is, that's when I started tearing up behind my sunglasses. Like I was like I had tears in my eyes. One or two may have escaped because I was like I've never been to an island with such a dirty like I was just picturing myself because I've been on cruises, imagining myself trying to get off this cruise ship to go on this island. I wouldn't have been able to. That's how shocked I was because the water where the cruise ship is supposed to be was all brown. It wasn't even blue anymore. Like
Yeah,
that in itself is disgusting.
no, yeah, no, it really is. And like, I just remember, I think I was severely dehydrated that day because I think every like 20 minutes I was like, I have to buy water. Like, yeah, we stopped a lot for me to get water because I was dying.
Well, we stopped a lot in general. My dad was buying mangoes. God knows what other fruit he picked up. And
Oh,
your
yes, he
roommate was buying
was.
beers. And
Yes.
I was just crying. Wasn't buying anything.
I was so happy when that day was done. I was just like, I need to be in bed and just sleep another day because I was just like, I don't know.
Yeah. When we
Everything was
got
just not. I felt like the first week that I was there, that week moved in slow motion. I was like, if I was back home right now, a month would have flew by and I'm only on day 2 or 3. I don't know if you felt that way, but I felt like a day was not 24 hours at all.
I didn't feel that way because I was with my dad. When he left, I felt
True.
that way. But
For times took
I
so.
think when my dad also got to the port, like the terminal where he saw where all the sewage was going, he was a little taken aback too. He was kind of like, "Okay, dude, WTF? Like this is weird." And so he turned around and he looked at me, and I think he can tell by my face that I was like, "I can't like handle this right now." And I looked at him and I was like, "Dad, I want to go home." And like he knows that I was like probably he probably knows I was crying or really close to
I
it.
know, he did.
And he kind of panicked because he was like, "What do you mean you want to go home? Like, I can't, like, no, you signed up for med school. Like, we paid the tuition. Like, we cannot leave now." And I was like, "No, no, 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 no. Like, I know I'm committed to this, but I mean, like, okay, the apartment home, like can we just, like, get out of here though?" Like,
Oh my god, you scared him.
I did.
No, so this is like shifting a little from our culture shock, but like,
Well, this
so
is the culture
I'm
shock. For me,
no, I
this
mean,
was the biggest
I
culture shock.
no, like for medical school. So we have not started classes yet. And I didn't know, like I came from undergrad and then I did my post batch because I was doing my pre-med classes. And then there was people who were studying. Like this is semester 1 and we haven't started our first I don't even know what the first topic was even going to be and they were already doing UWorld and USMLE RX. And I was thinking to myself, like, I've already failed the semester because these people have already probably been studying for weeks or months. And I was so scared. I was like, you're already so behind because I was like, this is probably a whole different ball game that I was used to. And then, like, we started and I was like, okay, like, I didn't understand what
Whoa.
these people were.
Wait, hold the phone. People were already studying? Why is this
Not
news to
just
me?
not
Like,
just
I'm shocked.
studying. They were doing cubings that I've never even heard of. Like I didn't know what UWorld was then or this UAssembly RX. All I knew is there was something called first aid and the school's lectures that they were going to provide for us. I was like, do I have to purchase a cubing? I was in severe panic.
I didn't even know that. No, like, whoa. Okay,
Yes.
you have just shook me to my core all over again. Like, this is
I
news
was
to me. What do you I
I
never
was
bought a
just
Q
like,
bank until like September because I didn't know what the hell a Q bank was. That's okay. This is actually like for everybody or anybody who's planning to go to medical school. These are things that hopefully that we can educate you on right now. I had
absolutely.
no idea about this coming into
No.
medical school at all. There are something called Q banks. Q banks, of course, as you know, probably straightforward, but they're question banks. They give you questions on the material you want to learn or you're going to get tested on. There's different
Yes.
ones. There's Kaplan, there's UWorld, there's Amboss. What else is there?
You said Kaplan already?
Yeah, I think so.
UWorld, NBME?
Yeah, and BME is the National Board of Medical Examiners,
Yes.
so they have their own set of questions.
Yes, like
Um,
they have practice exams, which are
what
really
there
useful
was
when you buy
also
them.
there was also some things that people were using, I remember in semester 1 that I never used, Firecracker or Osmosis.
Yes, those were also. There's a lot of them. Yes, there's also Sketchy.
So basically, there are a lot of resources that you can use, and it can
You
get
don't need to
very
do all of them.
overwhelming very fast.
Yes.
Um, the first thing that I would recommend is if you're applying and if you're interviewing with medical schools, and you have the opportunity to talk to some alumni or someone that's in the school right now, ask them if they do in-house exams or NBME exams. Didn't know that there was such a thing until I was already on the island, and I think we were blessed that we had NBME exams.
Yes, and it's a great company. Like they have so many practice exams for us to buy, and I think for my duration of medical schools, I've bought in all their practice exams to use. Like it's like obviously it's not free, like what they do charge, but like they were really helpful just to understand the style of questions. I don't know, you probably felt the same.
I agree. I didn't know NBME was a thing until really late in the first semester. So I was really behind on that and I wish I had known sooner. But basically, NBME, because like I said, it was the National Board of Medical Examiners, they have a standardized way of testing. So when you write your USMLE exam, that's going to be similar to
Hmm.
NBME questions. So if you practice or if your school tests you with NBME exams, then your chances of doing better on the actual boards, like your step exams, are higher because you've seen that question style before. Versus
Yes.
in-house, which can be so detailed and nitty-gritty because your professors are making those. In-house means that the actual university or school you go to, they make the questions and the tests.
Yes. So I think every most Caribbean islands do use NBME. And sometimes they'll use in-house exams. Ours used both in a semester, but
But
we
our
had
our
their
in-house exams were more to test ourselves to see where
yes,
we stood. They weren't contributing to our grade. They were for participation.
yes. So we got to see like both those styles, and boy, they were really different.
Yeah,
Like
the in-house questions, it's like the professors would pick that one detail that that doesn't matter at all. Like this is not going to help me in my clinicals diagnosing A to B because it's such a nitty-gritty detail. They would ask you questions on stuff like that. Versus NBME is like asking you concept related questions. Like if you understood a concept, you could get the question right.
sometimes I didn't even like sometimes I would be reading the in-house ones and I would be like, what's the question? I think they would forget to write the question. They would be explaining something and then I would be like, what am I missing here? Like, what are you asking? And I would be like, okay, like
That was every single in-house question was, what the hell are you asking me? Okay,
but
first of all, half of the NBME questions, I'm like, what the hell are you asking me?
they're already confusing and like I always felt so shitty because I did so badly on the in-house ones. And then I was just like and then here's another thing. There's a lot of characters on these islands who attend these schools who are the I don't even know how to say the laziest liars. Like they're so bad at it that you catch them in the lie the next day. And I would be panicked because so many of them would be like got an 80 and 90 on this, in-house exam that we just took or the first exam we took like I didn't pass, but I wasn't far away from passing, so I was like not bad for a first medical school exam. But then they'd be like, I got an 85, 90, and I was like, what am I doing wrong? And then the next semester, they're all back in semester one, and you're just like, what's happening? And then one person tried to convince me that they weren't happy with their passing score, so they were gonna redo the semester just to bring it up. And I was just like, in my head, I'm like, I'm either the dumbest person alive to believe this, or who are you trying to fool? Would you repeat a whole semester if you've passed it?
No, because when you pass, first of all, you don't have the option to repeat because if you pass, you
Thank
have to
you.
move on. But
Yes.
no, Dr. Berry, bring up a very valid point, and this is something that I would like. Honestly, this is something that goes to you that go if you go into any school. This doesn't just apply to medical school. This is any school that you
Hmm.
go to. Be aware that people lie a lot. There are very few people who will genuinely tell you what they got and what they didn't got. Wow, my English. Sorry. what what they got and what they didn't get or did get. Whatever. You get my point, guys. But first of all, never feel obligated to share. If you don't feel comfortable
No.
talking about how you did, just say, I am happy with what I got, even if you're not. Or just say, I'm fine, thank you. And your roommate was so pushy and persistent, always. What did you get? What did you get? No, what's your and like it's like, dude, I'm happy. I don't need you don't need to know I'm happy. If you want to tell me what you got, that's I'm happy with that.
So
But
the people that no, I love that you brought that up because I agree, but I also don't agree with somebody saying a fake score. I don't like that either. So if I'm not happy with my score and I don't want to tell you what it is, I will be like, it's a okay score, but I could have done better. So like that's what I would say if I didn't do that well. And if I'm happy, I'd be like, I'm happy. But I don't. Those people come in and then they like freak you out that like, oh, I got a 90 something, and you know for sure like you've prepared way more than they have for the exam, and you just feel like crappy about yourself. So
yeah,
I like how you said it. Like if you don't want to say it in those two ways. But yeah, I didn't like when people ask me about my scores either. Like I'm only comfortable like sharing them with a few people, not everyone who
same.
would ask. And I feel like I didn't need to know anybody else's scores either. Like honestly, the only scores that matter are my own. Like it's not. Do you know what I mean? Like you got the score, you did well. It's you're happy for yourself. If somebody did worse or better than you, does that really affect you?
So, I mean, I agree with you. I only did tell people what I got, like a select few people, like for example, you would know, and like a couple
Yeah.
other, one or two other
Hmm.
people would know what I got. And that's because, like, genuinely, I know you guys would be happy with, like, for me and, like, vice versa. Like if you did really well, I'd be so happy for you too, because I've seen you putting in the hours. I've seen you, studying and doing the work, right? So that's why like I can see why, but you're right, nobody needs to know your score and you don't need to know anybody else's, because you will inevitably feel that initial moment of, oh man, I didn't get that, or like, oh, I did better than them, I don't want them to feel bad. So why put yourself in that situation? And there's some people whom will inflate and say that they got this, that, and the other because maybe they feel insecure, I'm not sure. But that really messes with your brain. When you're in a high stress situation and for some odd reason, the professors have even made medical school very competitive. So as a student, your peers, they're like, it's weird. Like they're out for blood. It's very hard to find some genuine friends who are happy for you. We were surrounded by immature and competitive people.
I think as we moved forward, though, the group got more and more of the mature people. I think definitely once we were off the island and into clinicals, I feel like just that specific group, everybody was just like more mature about these things. And it's so funny because the
Yeah,
older the
for the
people were
most
on the
part.
island, the more mature they were. Not immature. The older that people were on the island, the more immature they acted and were.
Yeah.
It wasn't the young people. Like it just was not. I
I
don't know.
I
Like
don't I
that's
don't know actually, to be honest. I thought, like, when I got to the island, the amount of drama that there was within like the first couple of weeks was unreal. I felt so annoyed and upset because
you didn't even,
for
I don't even know how you got into it. That's what I was confused about because I was
I
just
don't
like, it didn't even include you. It did not. I don't even know how your name got thrown out.
so I'm a person who, like, the way I studied, like, okay, you know what, let's talk about a little bit about studying, and then this will kind of explain about how I don't understand how I got stuck into drama or sucked into it, is because
Yeah.
we both study differently. So
Oh,
this is kind
yes.
of like a good way to this is a good reason to not have to, why you shouldn't compare yourself to other people, because everybody studies differently. I used to study at home. I didn't like studying at the school. I used to only go to the school for my mandatory lecture or group classes, or like anatomy lab, and then I would come straight home. I never studied at school. I was always studying by myself in my room. I studied best that way.
I was the complete opposite because I feel like I couldn't, if I was alone in my room, I would get nothing done. Not that at school I was like focusing 100%. I would be distracted every 10 to 15 minutes or like somebody would be like, "Let's go grab something," or "Let's go get this." I'm like, "Okay." Like, and then it would take me a lot, but I feel like throughout the day I was more productive than I ever would if I stayed home. I just can't. Home is associated with sleep, Netflix. That's it. Talking to your
So
family.
I can understand that. So I associated home with safety and like privacy and focus. So I was able to also sleep, study, and watch shows. Um, but I was also able to focus too. So I had a good schedule built for myself. I didn't study as hard in semester one as I did in the rest of med school, but that's because I didn't know what I was kind of doing. Like I basically spent the whole semester trying to figure out what I was doing. I was fortunate enough that some of the other students on the island had given me resources on like a flash drive or whatever. They told me to use Kaplan. I'd never heard of it before. They're called the Kaplan like lecture notes. I
Hmm.
used to use that. They told me about first aid, and I used. So then I signed up for USMLE RX because the first aid was online, and
Yes.
they gave you flashcards, and you could do questions. Which the questions for RX are a little bit more detailed and focused, so they're good for your like school exams. But I would recommend UWorld for like your step exams. So I
Yes.
was able to, people were able to educate me on these resources, thankfully. But I made a good schedule for myself where I'd come home after class, um, have tea, um, lunch, and I'd watch a show or two for like an hour. I would be on YouTube or something and just relax. And then I would study whatever material that we had gone over, write my notes or whatever. I like to handwrite my art is not the most efficient way of studying. We can talk about that on maybe a future podcast of what are efficient ways to study. That
Absolutely.
was not very efficient. And then I would study until like I reached a certain point because my home time zone was like 3 or 4 hours behind our island time zone. So I made sure to like take a break, study significantly, and that's what drove me to study focused was because after evening I'd be able to call home. So I'd talk to my friends or my family members, like my mom, my dad. Sometimes I'd talk to my fiance, sometimes I'd talk to my sister. And then after talking to them for half an hour to an hour, I'd hang up and go to sleep. I slept a lot. If I didn't watch a lot of TV or anything, like if I only watched an hour of YouTube, that was because I made sure I got 8 hours of sleep. I cannot function with less than 7 hours of sleep.
That was one thing I changed about myself in medical school is I did not sacrifice sleep for even one day. I don't even care. I was just like, if I don't get 8 to 9 hours, I was not going to be productive. And even if I had stuff to study that and I didn't finish my goal, I would be like, sleep comes first because like my brain is not going there. And I have not sacrificed sleep ever since.
Yes, that's true. For the most part, I don't sacrifice my sleep. Obviously, there came points in our studying where the curriculum was too demanding, and I was so panicked. I had
Yes,
no
you
choice.
used to be like, because I would like definitely sleep before I had to be in class forever. And you were like telling me how yeah, I wake up at 6 and then review at 6:30, and I was like, I'm definitely doing something wrong here because I was like, what should I be doing that? But I just
Well,
couldn't. There's no way I'm getting up at 6:30.
because after I talked mentally, just like so exhausted and sad and tired that I'd be like, okay, you know what? Like I just need to go to sleep. So I went to sleep really early. I used to go to sleep around 9:30. Like 10 was like
Mhm.
pushing it for me. So if I went to sleep then I would wake up by like 5, 6 in the morning and squeeze a couple hours of studying in the morning. Worked for me. How did you study? Like what did you have a schedule? Like how
I was definitely not as disciplined as you. Absolutely not. I I would go to school and then I would probably waste an hour or so talking to people. I would have breakfast and my coffee, and then I would probably sit study for like an hour and a half, and then I take a break, and then I would just be doing that until like 5 or 6, and then I would convince myself like I'm gonna go home, eat, and then continue to study, but I just wouldn't. So for me, it wasn't consistently studying. So I would have like a day where I would not be productive, maybe do like 1 or 2 hours focus, but then another day I would be able to do like 7 to 8 hours and make up for it. So there was always a balance, but I never stuck to a schedule because I just knew I would never follow one at all. And then obviously I was always so stressed before an exam. I was just like, oh, like should have started earlier, you should have done this, but I never got organized.
You know what? To each their own, that's totally okay, but that just shows like, you made it through, you're a doctor now. So whatever you did, it worked for you. And that's the running point is know what works for you. Try to figure that out as early as you can. Find the resources that you like and stick to them. Just because somebody says that, "Oh, I'm doing first aid, I'm doing Kaplan, I'm doing lecture notes, I'm doing Dr. Najib and sketchy," doesn't mean you have to do five resources. No, 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 no,
Oh
no.
my god, I forgot
Yeah.
about Dr. Najib. I bought that and I have a life subscription
Same.
because it was $9 and now that I should log into that. We have paid for it for a lifetime.
I only use Dr. Najib for neuro. He was phenomenal for like this cranial nerves, the pathways to tracts, optic nerve. Loved that for him. Everything else
So
beyond that, I
mine
was like, it's too detailed. Didn't like it.
mine was Kaplan for neuro. After watching Kaplan, I was like, I've never had an issue with neuro for moving forward. It just stuck in my brain.
I did use Kaplan a lot. I didn't use, I used personally my resources when I was on the island. I used first aid and RX,
Yes.
like the version of it.
Hmm.
Um, I used for physiology, I used Costanzo. I love that book so
Oh,
much. I love
so
that
did
book
I.
so
I read
much.
it. I read it for physiology.
Cover to cover. Everything in
Hmm.
there is exactly what you need to know for
Yep.
physiology. If you know your
Yep.
Costanzo, you're set, my friends.
Yep. I
Um,
agree. And it wasn't a
so
long read either.
no, it was so nice. Guyton. Guyton was my second favorite, but Guyton was like Costanzo on roids.
No, but apparently Costanzo is the summary of Guyton.
It is, but sometimes I just like to go that extra mile and learn things. Like, I always ask why. I'm that annoying kid who's like, why? But
Once I know
why?
why, I'll want to know it. Like, I just need to know, like, this is the limited information I will know about this topic, and that's enough for me. Like,
So,
if I go into detail, I will literally confuse myself with every single thing. I would just be like, I'd convince myself that every single answer is correct.
so what I used to do is I used to read the concise Costanzo version, and if there was something where I was like, no, I just don't understand why. Like, I feel like you're glossing over the details. I'd pull open my Guyton book, man, it was heavy. I pulled open my Guyton, flip to the chapter, read Guyton, and be like, oh, I get it now. And then go to the condensed version and use that to like. So Costanzo, um, Guyton was supplementary to kind of learn from, like as a
Hmm.
backup. I did RX flashcards and questions. I didn't do Anki because I didn't like Anki. Wow, we haven't even talked about Anki, dude.
I forgot that it even existed. I really need to start studying for step three. I feel like I have not studied for a while. Like I've forgotten how.
Same. I feel like I'm losing a lot of my knowledge and I need to pick up on Anki.
Yes.
But Anki, basically, there's different decks that you can download and use. The problem is when you use certain decks, they're very detailed cards that may or may not show up. Personally, when I started using Anki properly in clinicals, I made my own Anki cards off of View World questions that I got wrong. Um, and so, of course, making cards is very, very tedious and time consuming. So instead of making cards, I decided to just use the RX cards to study with. So yeah, for me, it was sketchy for farm and micro. That is like the holy grail.
I agree.
Um, Costanzo and first aid slash RX was my
Yes.
three top sources, and I supplemented as needed with lectures from the school
Yes,
and
so did I.
um, Guyton as needed.
I did boards and beyond as well.
I didn't do boards and beyond because I used the Kaplan videos if
See,
I
I
needed them.
switched. So I did Kaplan first, if I think in my first year, and then second year I switched to boards and beyond because I was getting a little bit more lazy and I needed like shorter videos. Not that they're short, but they're way shorter than Kaplan.
Yeah, that's
But never
true.
used like so many resources at once. That's what I think students made a mistake is they would use every single resource, but no, at the end of the day, I stuck to like one main one. So like boards with like just, and then just glancing through the school lectures just to see if I covered all the topics. So that would be the source of information. And then obviously just sketchy for micro and farm, but then I would just use like the Q bank to supplement my knowledge, and that's it. Like I didn't do anything else.
Okay, that makes sense. Um,
Costanzo for physiology, yeah, I do agree.
yeah, that I think that's a holy grail for that. Um, what I am losing my train of thoughts. I don't know if you guys heard, but somebody just tried to walk into the room. I didn't lock my door this time, so I'm like, oh, I
I know.
lost
I was
whatever
like,
I
"Where are
was
you?"
gonna
I was
say.
like, "What are you looking at?"
I don't even know who was at the door. I looked over and they already shut the door, so I don't know who it was. Um,
But
but
like, if you ever have any questions about like what sources or what you should use, like our email is in the description, and we will reply to your emails if with any questions that you guys might have of these things. Because I know it's a lot, and we had to learn as we went forward.
definitely, I agree. I think we probably just did an information dump on you guys right now. So if anything about this actually didn't make sense, like I know we just kind of listed out names of sources you may never heard of before. Um, some are textbooks, some are question banks, questions like on how anything's spelled or whatever it is. Please feel free to reach out to us. Yeah, I think we'll keep it to that because I feel like we really crammed a lot onto you guys right now. But
I agree.
definitely, um, my number one thing would be like if you're applying to a Caribbean medical school, figure out if it's in-house exams or not. That'll make the world's difference to you guys.
Yes. And also, we're a prime example of people who got through it. So don't listen to like negative comments that I've told you that, oh, you're just going there to waste money or you're going to fail out, because it's really not true. It's hard work, but I feel like with determination, like put your head to it, I feel like it's doable. Just like we both, as you can see, we both finished from it, so it's doable in a way.
Yeah, and we both studied completely different.
Yes.
You have someone who's extremely structured, with a schedule, versus someone who didn't have a schedule but equally as hardworking.
Yes.
Do we want to give them something, um, spicy or funny to end off on? Because we've been so school
I know it's not
funny.
like our first one. We're a little entertaining. What story do you want to tell them?
Um, we can, I was so random, and this might be just like the most scandalous thing. I don't know. For me, I was like offended and scandalized when somebody said this to me. Your roommate said this to me, actually. Um,
Oh,
okay. Another culture shock that was major to me was the type of people and their behavior on this island. For some
yes.
reason, a lot of people who were in committed relationships when they came to the island they would cheat on their husbands, fiancés, boyfriends. I don't know,
And so
right?
many people were like engaged and they weren't anymore, like really quickly.
Yeah. So, um, I was in a long term, for like, we got engaged after I got off the island, but, we were steadily dating for a really long time.
Hmm.
Obviously, we're still together, but, when we went on the island, because a lot of the times people would say like, oh yeah, I'm engaged, this, that, and the other, but then they'd end up cheating on their significant others.
Hmm.
It just apparently became this like thing that nobody really, like, it became assumed that it doesn't matter if you're in a relationship, you're still probably going to be willing to do something. And when a couple people had approached me and were like, would like flirt or like hit on me,
Oh yes, I
I
remember
was
you told me the
I was
disrespect.
like I was like this is I was like hello, like it's like, when your roommate was like kind of talking about it, I was like, "Oh, listen, I have a boyfriend. I'm in a committed relationship and I'm very
Hmm.
happy. I don't care who's cheating on who and whose engagement got broken up with. Please don't come to me with this. I don't even know who these people are. I don't care."
No, I completely
And
agree.
he was like, "Oh, well, it's not like it's gonna last anyways. Like they were engaged too.
Oh my God.
Like you're probably willing to do. You're probably gonna like end up doing something too. And I was like, get the hell out of my face. I was like,
It's so
out
disrespectful in so many ways.
in my house. You came to my apartment and then said this to me. I was like, get out. I was like, you need to leave my apartment. I was like, get out right now. I was like, I don't care what you think you're saying right now. I don't even know if you know what you're saying right now. I was like, leave. I was like, that's so disrespectful.
Wow. That is
I've
so
been at
disrespectful. You guys been
that
together for
point,
long, like it was close to since
we were,
high
I think,
school,
yeah, so at that point, we were together for about,
like 7 to 8 years.
I would say 7 years, maybe, I think it was our
Yeah.
8th year. So I was like,
Like
okay,
how
like,
does
no, this
no,
is
I
like
know. Like it's okay to
majority of my
like
life.
no, I know. Like obviously have a like don't do it in a way where it's gonna like I don't know, it like didn't do it in the right way at all. Or just to like assume like just shouldn't take like huh?
I just feel like that was his stupid way of shooting his shot.
Maybe. Would not be surprised.
Like in some, I don't know what you think is gonna happen, but besides get the hell out of my apartment. Like
I not know about this.
I told you, I'm pretty sure I told you. But you know what? Don't worry, we'll talk about this next time. It gets way worse, okay? Your roommate has
Okay.
done worse to me. Your roommate has said worse to me.
Oh boy, to be tuned. I mean, not to be tuned, to be
Yeah.
I don't know what the saying is.
To be
Wow,
continued?
scandalous.
To be
Yeah, to
continued.
be
Yeah, to
continued.
be continued. All right, guys, we're gonna sign out. Thank you for listening to us. If you made it this far, be in tune for the juicy bits next time.
Yep. See you guys soon. Bye.